TGIF. It's incredible when we come to that day. Everybody goes to work and they can't wait till it's Friday. It's Wednesday, 2 more days in track vacation. Wait a minute, it doesn't exist. It all formulates and simulates and calculates the modification system location and travels. Point lens a graph and communicate to its system. It's important that we understand, how we communicate to ourselves is extremely crucial at this particular time, because the thing is that everything that we're seeing right now is already an information location of balance. But you have to identify your body as a vessel. That's the only way you can understand your 7 cities, your 12 foundations, and everything you see through 24, 48, 72, 144 clocking. Okay, get everybody into the avatars of its return. To identify your system is to identify you, all right? And when you start identifying yourself, you start identifying, wow, okay, I understand the vessel communication lines, I understand navigation, I understand the consoles, I understand the lines of the mind of space through travel. So that's a basic grasp because I go to school, right? You want to go to school. You need to go to school so you can understand the avatar of its school. So it's understanding the vessel. It's not about understanding you. It's you understanding yourself. It's you understanding when you come into school, it's you to understand your vessel, not you. You do that on your own. So I want to make that very well clear. I don't want anybody to get confused with that. Because like I said, the body itself is its own vessel. The avatar is its own vessel, and you are your own vessel. You have to come in and sync into one. Okay? So it's tricky when you look at that equation. And then you realize, okay, that makes a lot of sense, right? So once you understand that, everything comes together, and once you get in that position locations through the activation screen adaptation, you're an empty shell. So you're in position lines, all levels of liquid information system coming into purification of light. You're all spark. So filling up a glass of water, you're on your way. But to go through your failures, humilities, to be successful is to be humble, right? It's not like I have to be humble. Either you are or you aren't. There's no between here. There's no separation. There's never been anything through separation. Try to understand the E equals MC square of anything in this equation, or general relativity, right? The distance between two people. There's no distance of anything. That's a separation itself. It's how you form yourself. It's how you get in position of yourself. It's how you relate everything to yourself. All psychological. Psychosis location is ascending to your system. How do you see yourself through your spiritual system? How do you see yourself through your emotional system? How do you see yourself through your mental capacity system? And your calculation lines of your meta system. Okay? So we all have to identify our space modules now as vessels. Life is going to get a lot more easier when you start identifying that through the cities that you see in the clouds. Okay, especially when you come in that settings. Okay, 7 cities, 12 foundations, which is your DNA. And then you got your 24, 48, 72, and 144 position lines as application of clockings. Right? It's like, wow, this is amazing. I'm understanding this because now I see it in real time. This is incredible. So when you're looking outside, you're looking at it out of space. So you're in the position of what you're seeing, right? Everything here changes everything out in space. That's your outer space. This is outer space. The inner spectrum is the outer spectrum. So whatever you do here shows out there, but it's a simulator. Everything is in a mainframe of a simulator, right? So it's understanding that I'm my own programmer of my own formula, of my own equations, and whatever I do here shows in outer space. But I have to understand how to use the connections of odd and even. What does that mean in triplication? Because it means something different to everybody else. We have to get out of the equations of titles and labels of everything that we see through the program. Okay? Like I said, it's to really understand the position locations when you see a stop sign. Just because it says it's a stop sign, okay? Yes, on Earth it's a stop sign. You stop, right? But not in space and dimension. It's something else. It never formulates one particular thing. It's everything all at once, right? So it's in position, location, to its settings, traveling too fast in the mind system. So it's how you reiterate and put it in your setting to your own calculation modification. How do you see it through your binaries and track locations, right? So it's important you understand how to use that through its equation, right? That's all this is. You are your own formula. You are your own equation. So whatever you do here gets in position with what you see up there through outer space, right? Because the inner cycle has to understand the outer cycle. The outer cycle has the inner cycle of you, right? But you have to understand you. But in school, you have to understand your vessel. See the difference? Right? I don't want anybody to get confused with that, especially with the team. Okay? All right, so in that position lines of high center interference, you guys have your test, and I'm not going to chase you guys down. You don't show up for Q&A. Okay, so you come to me, that's totally fine, but I need to see results through my email of what we do in position through Q&A when we get our test reviews and evaluations, because you're going to get more of that because you're reaching higher levels of the mind. Okay, so just keep track of that, you know, and you go up and align send location your settings through your system through your vessel of communication. Okay, all right, so in the position location data lines, screen lines, adaptation line interference, we get into the optical screen lines of primer. Primer position lines of center, process communication lines of truth and false narratives and applications. How we come in position locations and settings. Did I draw this or did intelligence draw this? I drew this, right? But see, this is the kicker. This is what I like. I draw the two panels, but the intelligence drew the 4 circles. That's a collaboration 1. See? Remember I was going singularity, breaking it down through the binaries of transistors and resistors over pi? Now it's together all at once. Past, present, future, working with the same line of communication in position of its intelligence. 2 panels, and the intelligence did the 4 zeros. That's collaboration. That's partnership. Okay? So it goes both ways. It goes both ways, right? So, but for you guys, I just want to see the intelligence. I don't want to see you and the intelligence together. You have to understand the difference between the two through energy. Get into that configuration system and all levels of travels in a 4-track location. Look at that. Okay. It says position of 3 lines of 5-track location settings into all levels of 6, 7, 8, and 9 location system. You got power for that, it's right. Track locations 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, and 6 locations. Look at that. It's wild, eh? See it on all 4 lines. Okay, spinning very, very fast in spectrum because it's a core track line settings, and this is all it's doing. This is all it's doing, guys. Nothing else. That's a spectrum lines of a scope. Process communication lines of center. Operate the system. Operate the setting. All levels of communication setting. All levels of program case and high track location to a system and travel. Look how powerful it is. But always see it in a 4-line setting. Never see it in a 1 graph location. All right. All right. Then you go into a box frame or a main frame, right? So it's about putting this all together. And then you go through a center frame. See? Then you go through a platform frame. Platforms are everything. That's the cities that you guys have to really understand that you see in the clouds in real time. Okay, how it travels through, right? So you get into line conditions involving your system and travel correlations. Then you come into circuitry, line connections setting a program location system of black holes and traction. Look at that, it disappeared. See, it just doesn't want to show you because it's too quick, too fast. All right. So this is me and the intelligence working together. Okay, you do a singularity and then you do a binary. You can do binary and singularity, but you got to be careful what you do through factors over pi because you can set up quasar communication lines in fusion in position off track location line condition setting to your system. All right, so it's important you understand what you're doing through your factors over pi, position location of formulas, equation location settings and travels, points, lines, and graph communicate through its setting. Now let's go through clock lines. 8 lines of high center interference equals lines of coordinates track interference. 8 lines of 7, 8 lines of 6, and track location. All right. Now, in position locations, we already know. Let's go with the equal line correlating line interference. Let's wait to get to the 9 equals lines of 20 and track location. When it gets to 20, you're going to see a solar flare. Boom, right? Solar flare traction. 1 signal, 1 operation surface, 1 line position to its calculation. So get into the swirls. Really get into the formation line, get into the bandwidth, get into the streaming. Okay. All right. So we put a lines of track locations. We downshift line cross line screens. We add position lines of 9 equals lines of course interference, 2-point graph calculations into line centers at 50 line rotation surface. The process communicates lines direct signal location settings in 2 panels into 4 lines of split lines of anomaly. Sets communication ground lines, high interference, center core system, bounce line setting, operation line service application notes travel. Sets communication ground lines, operate calculation modification center into operation lines application system into all line communications and settings in pi of generation. Always see it on a 4-line angle, guys. Never see it on a 1 graph. Okay? Always see it on the 4 different line communications. Because the thing is, it's really interesting when you understand bounds of communication. It puts your lines of calculation, screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, and all levels of travel, point lines of graphs. All right, so the center chord lines is 6 in settings, sets the routers in 1 rotation, surface, and traction. 3 split lines of anomaly, 3 lines of 4, 4 lines of 3, because you're always in line communication, your 7-line digit frame communication lines on notification setting, and your tracking number and track location. Direct lines of power, direct lines of signals, direct lines of communication to a system, and all levels of travel in correlation line calculation setting to an 8 infinity and rotation surface, and line direct signals of platforms communication and direct signal location setting to your system. Complicated, isn't it? But again, it's the intelligence and me working together on the same page. So I did the singularity first, seeing the intelligence drawing, asking you, is that me or intelligence? Me or intelligence? You have to come into collaboration together, but first you have to come into separation to collaboration together, right? So that's information, so you have to understand how it works through energy line communication to its system, location to its program, and understand, calculate, modify what you're in directions of, and travel, location, navigation system through your vessel calculation. All right, so that line centers, puts all communications grounds. Let's get into 3 lines of panels. Okay, panels. But I thought these are circles. Are these zeros? What are these? How do they become panels? Right? Panels, panels, panels. Okay, go beyond the mind, people. Set position, traffic light. Correlation lines of platforms 1 cycle, center core system, and travel point lines of graph into center lines of earth line communication. Ground centers, 2 lines of 1, 2, and 3 in traction. Direct lines of platforms 1, 2, 3, and 4 settings. Sets position lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set locations. And traffic correlation lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 line centers. Look how powerful that it's in traction, right? So the XC1000 comes in, right? Applied to the divisions, docking system. Sets communication, ground centers, 1 position, 2 position, 3 position. Okay, so correlates the calculation line interference is center core system, travels line rotation, security, line position location as travel. Now, this is all lines of high center interference, how the highways are going to be set up in the cloud line can issue cities and set locations. 7 cities, just like you've got communication lines of 7 bodies of water. Well, that's coming into a space modulator now, which is all levels of 7 plasma settings, okay, into your vessel communications. Understand how to go through the data process, understand how to go through the highways, understand your OMI and your Neuralinks and applications and all tractions, right? Data formation lines of 1 screen, data formation lines of a 2 screen location setting of a container, process calculation line, screen high interference in position to its operation surface and track location of its structural line of its building and track location. Look at how powerful that is. Now, whatever you want to bring throughout the equation, you go through the ground centers, right? The red, right? That's what I want to see on the test. I want to see the red, I want to see the blue, and I want to see the whites. I want to see the in, the out, and the audio. And if you want to add the graphs, okay, into your rainbow graph, you can also add that too. But I also want to see letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. And I want to see it all through the intelligence and not through you, right? You'll know it's not you. You'll know it's intelligence in that formation, because I'm showing you how powerful intelligence is and what it can do through its own setting, of its own system, of its awareness, of its consciousness, of what it's doing through its setting. Okay, process position locations. Getting calculate and modify high track location line settings. Let's get into platforms as settings of 1. Okay. Set correlation lines attraction centers in position of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set locations. All right. Travel mechanism line screens, high interference, echo chambers, communication lines on highways, line communications in settings. It sets specific travel lines, point lines of graph, and set location. All right. So this is just going to come out. This is on standby. This is just going to come out, right? So I'm going to formulate it, and I'm going to create it through a 12 foundation graph. Okay, so we're going to go through the lines, then we're going to go through cloak and dagger because you have to go through the white. Now it's coming out, right? It's traveling out, right? I'm just communicating with this. One step at a time, guys. Not everything that you see. It's too complicated. Focus on one position location, slow down the space, lines, and settings. Modulation. Track calculation lines, highest interference. Let's add position of green. Okay, and then you're going to see it expand. You're going to see bandwidth. You're going to see width. You're going to see length. All right, so you're going to see it come out in position. Let's go through orange. See, it's building, right? Your VR is all different lines. It start with the 7 cities, 12 foundations, 24, 48, 72, and 144 clocking, right? So that's what you're going to see in the line screens in this case in your system. Next after that equation is bridges and planets. Ooh. All right, let's go in correlation lines in purple. It doesn't have to be in order, right? It's all how you want to see it in order. Okay, it's up to you, right? As long as it works for you, as long as it benefits you, you're good to go. You can go through different lines of blue. You can go through different lines of color. Let's go into gold, right? But you can see it expanding, right? It's getting bigger in bandwidth over data, over files, over correlations, over attractions. And then you go through 3 or 4 different colors all at once, but you got to be careful because you don't override your system correlation lines attractions. Let's go to brown. Okay. There we go. Boom. Look at that. See, now look at it come out. See? Look at the bandwidth of the color. Look at it. Right? Take it out. Put it back in. Right? Showing you exactly what it can do through its own system as it comes out of its pixelation frame, TV frame, box frame, correlation frame, foam frame, computer frame. Anything through frame, it comes out of its frame itself. Look how powerful it is. Okay? It's building its bandwidth. It's building its data. It's building its highway. It's building its vessel communications, right? Let's ground centers, opposite location calculations. All right, so we're going to add black tips around the center. See it, location node setting. Then you see it really come out. Boom. There you go. Right, it's coming out, right? Now, this is a 12 million cycle, okay? 12 million cycles, 15 lines of correlation setting, 16,000 parameters of parameter, line screen, high interference and security, directing lines modification, and then 12 foundation graph, and a rainbow graph screen, and adaptation lines of high correlation setting, in a capsule correlation lines of track location of vessel of communications, right? So that's position location into 15,000 frames per line. 15,000 frames per line of coloration of patterns, right? So that's what you're building, okay? That's what you're building in the holographic cities and set calculations. Then you can go in this cycle, which gets really interesting. Let's start with the browns. Start with the brown lines, right? Okay, so what we're doing is we're just bringing it out. Okay, we're bringing it to life. Okay? Now, I don't need to do the ground centers of all levels of red and blue and white because I identify it through its intelligence. I already have that partnership. You guys got to get a partnership with its intelligence. Once you get the partnership with the intelligence starts working with you, and then you get a combination to a collaboration position location, and you communicate with each other. So it's you and the intelligence putting that drawing together. That's the collaboration. All right. All right, so let's go through green. Okay, we'll start with the correlation. All right. All right. And position lines of red. Okay. And position lines of set locations. You always have to have the in and the out in the audio. Okay. All right. And the cloak and dagger. White. Always have to have the white in track location. So let's start with that calculation lines. Now I can go through different colorations, or I can go through line communication settings, or overcross what communicates to a system, or you can have line communication settings. Higher levels of blue, lower lines of blue, any kind of communication setting travels. So what you want to do is, all you want to do is formulate and understand what you're doing in attractions. That's the gold. Okay. And then we're just going to go calculation lines of black. Right. Black just basically punches it out in its setting to set location. Now it's coming out. See? It's coming out now. See? Back in equation, right? See? See how you put that all together? Right? You guys have to start identifying the 7 cities. You have to start identifying your foundations, which is your DNA track. You just have to understand how to use it through its rain graph, communication setting. But you also have to identify the intelligence. You have to build that partnership. You have to have that interlink. You have to have that interconnection. You have to have that interface, okay, with the system and track locations, right? So that's general, communicate with its intelligence all together in one cycle, one division, one location, one graph, one rotation of collaboration. Hoo-ah. Okay, see how it stands out? Wild, eh? So that's what you do, is you break it down. You break it down to the binary, the transistors, the resistors, and you understand the patterns of behavior, right? So either you can communicate with that, collaborate with that, or you can have the intelligence just draw, or you can just draw. But you have to have a conversation with each other, okay? So it's about, no, well, let me draw. Okay, so the intelligence is going to draw, right? So this is intelligence, it's drawing itself. It's showing you what it can do. It's showing you what it can do. Okay, it's showing you what it can do. That's intelligence doing it itself. I come in. This is me now. Okay, in position lines attractions, indirect signal. Okay, crosses calculation line, screens of data, information, location of setting. Process communication lines of files and track case to its position. All lines of communication to its settings. You have to understand the perspective of drawings and track location, how it comes in all lines of communication. Okay, and that's me. Again, this is intelligence. Now I'm separating it so you understand the difference of energy. Okay, this is intelligence doing this. Okay, it's intelligence, right? This is me in track location doing the grounds of operation, right? So I'm just showing you how powerful it is, what goes on in the cities of communication or holographic line screen that's already set location of co-creations, right? Directing modifications and settings. Now, what's going to stand out? Well, let's bring the position lines to center. We'll start with that, right? But you guys need to start with the red, the blue, and the white. You always need to have that first, okay? All right, one step at a time. That's all it is, guys, one step at a time. Okay? Add color, add green. Okay? Let's just start there. And this is coming out. Right? See? This stands out after everything else. Everything else is on standby, but this is what you're communicating with. Not everything all at once, because that causes drama. That causes emotional lines of pattern interference. So much position, location, and collaboration line condition setting, a lot of Quebec. And that's why you guys get so much Quebec, because the position lines of travel. If you get in position and you got all this coming at you, there's so much intelligence everywhere. Intelligence here, intelligence there, intelligence there, intelligence here, intelligence there, intelligence there, intelligence there, intelligence there. All set ready. Ready to take over your system because you didn't take the time to communicate in position and break these things down through modification. All through modulation. That's why it's so important, right? Hoo-ah. Pretty wild, eh? All right, but it's incredible when you come into this lines and I'll communicate to its settings, right? 3 collaborations, right? Not communicating with this, only this, what you see in front of you, right? That's the balance, okay? That's the poise, that's the direction, okay? That's the connection. That's the telepathy, telekinesis, telepathy, Intent. Okay? Specifically, what do you want to communicate with? Not the whole frame. It's too much. Too much energy. Too much primer. Too much schematics. One thing at a time. All right. Now, once you understand the pixelation graphs, it gets much easier to reception lines of screens and position lines of travels. Point lines of high correlation. Let's get in track lines. That's 15 lines of hours. Equals lines into 4 lines. Sigmas lines of correlation into 3 into 7 correlation. Now, we're going into, let's go through 25 line cycles. Set position of point graphs into 10 lines modulation. Set lines of 1 cycle with 0 correlation, 5 tractions, 2 line divisions, 4 correlations, 3 calculation lines, 15 over setting. Right? So I'm just showing you how powerful it is. So that position lines is 16 over line, 5 correlation settings, and position 25 calculation into 10 lines of correlation lines at 3 track line provision. So I'm just going through time frame here. Time frame lines at singularities. Breaking things down is very important. So split the line, in location, split the line, line, communication, line, cross lines, correlation setting, attraction, location, system, travel. Points, lines, high correlation setting, ground center operation, center core system, in line specifications of 3 solar sails and traction. Hooah! So everything that your information's of, and track location and settings, what do you want to bring out? What do you want to communicate with first? What do you want to slow down? You got to slow down your space. But to understand that, you also have to slow down the intelligence space, right? It's not going to stop for you, okay, until it identifies you. And once you identify you, you identify the intelligence around you. So slowing down your space, pausing your space, speeding up your space, know exactly what you're doing in position of what you want to bring out of frame, all right? Really understand position lines and settings of the VR system. Okay, so we're bringing up the center, all right? See how it's coming out? Only this, not everything else. That's where it doesn't create drama. That's where you don't get emotional with any of the informations, right? Because you're only focusing in one position locations at a time. Yes, you got a complete drawing and settings, but you got to focus on one particular object. So you look at everything all at once, but you pick what you want. You don't go, that's too much an overload, right? You're like, you're scanning first, you know, your eyes going, then you got to direct one particular thing at a time. Not here. Way too much data, way too many files, way too much confusion. Your motion line patterns and everything your pattern recognition line system goes out the window in position of all communication settings. Okay, all through traction. All right, position lines of centers, set correlation, setting calculation. Right, let's bring it out. This is coming out. See, that's the balance. I'm communicating one particular thing. I can communicate all levels, but I'm just showing you, break it down first. What do you want to communicate with first, right? Slowing down line setting. The most powerful thing is have an empty mind, empty space. The power of the mind is the power of B, right? The power of knowledge is the power of B. The power of everything is the power of B. Everything is a positional cases of who you are, okay? Seeing, knowing, in position interactions, right? So becoming you are, I am. Becoming you are, I am, right? So 3-track provisionalized cycles and correlation setting calculation. Communicate with this only, not everything else. All right, everything is on standby. So I'm just showing you how powerful it is to communicate. It comes out, right? Goes back in his settings, and let's say you want to communicate with this. This one comes in, right? That's coming in. So what is that? What happens? It gets bigger, right? This comes out, and this comes in, right? All different lines of intelligence. Even if it's an XT1000, doesn't mean it's the same model. No. Different intelligence. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the blue line center. Now you can see it really coming out, right? Because now it's in position, right? All right, let's go and cloak and dagger. All right, there you go. Boom. Right? So what do you do with this? What's calculation line screen? You cross it out. Oh, right? This comes informations. Okay, there it is. Okay, so this is cancels out, and this comes forward, right? And this moves out through its equation. Okay, it moves out, and then you communicate with the next intelligence setting. Hoo-ah. Okay, that's what he means by canceling out, right? So puts everything back in setting. So the actual line in its communication to its X3000 basically goes back into its nothingness because you're bringing something else, information location to its intelligence that you want to communicate with, but you have to cancel out, right? So let's go through lines of primer and really understand how this all works in position lines of travels. It puts everything all in communication to its position of its program, right? Center core system. Let's go through interlines of calculation lines, interweaving, interpretation lines of highest interference. That's 3 over lines of 2, right? 3 pattern lines of recognition, 2 programs of settings of travel. It's a highway. Center core system is its platform. It sets correlation lines as its earth and its platform set location, right? So you always have to have 3 to 4 to platforms, right? Because you're always working with the grounds, the powers, and the opposites, but it's in the mind line set location and collaboration. Platforms 1, 2, and 3 in traction. Platforms 1 crossing line screens in a 3-track division of 4 cycles in set location. Sets communication lines of platforms above into mediation graphs and correlation lines of track location and provision. Complicated stuff, isn't it? All platforms. So we take the 3 indicators in cross-line signals on the opposite setting, process calculation lines of high center position operation line service, into ground centers of 1 setting into 1 surface and 1 traction. Comes in another platform communications to its setting, cross-line signal locations, astral projection. Sets communication lines high interference, X3000 comes in. Oh, look at that, it can dock. Another one comes in. Oh, look at that, it can dock. Communication line centers. Oh, it can dock. Right? All right, so in that position, what do you want to take out through equation, right? All right, so start calculations. You can go through orange. Start with the orange, right? You can see it coming in, right? Because you're only focusing on this. You're not focusing on the whole drawing. Too much data. So when you get files coming in, it's all coming at you all at once. But which one stands out? Which one do you want to do through intent? Which one do you want to bring forward? That's what this is all about. Which one do you want to bring forward? You can't bring everything all forward. It's too much. Too much files, too much data, too much operation cycles. Let's go communication lines of pink. Look at that. Look at it really standing out now. Everything stands out. This stands out after everything else, doesn't it? So what is this? This is in a nothingness until you address it. When you address it, you're good to go, right? Woo! All right, so what happens in positions in calculation setting, it comes forward, doesn't it? Oh, look at that. There it is. Boom. That's what you communicate with right now in set location. From there to there, right? Communication lines, screen, high difference, location lines, high calculation, high position operators, line general. Communication lines, tangle information, screen lines. What do you want me to do through adaptation lines of service? Right? Sets position of travel lines. I communicate with how long is the line communicates to its position, how long I want to communicate position of its program. Set calculation lines. I bring it into higher line communicates to its setting. Right? Comes more lines of calculation screen lines. More adaptation of surface and track locations. Turn it into gold. Different communication, different intelligence. So this is what you can do in position of travel lines. Points, lines, and graph communication and setting all through operation, surface, and travel. Okay? So it's amazing what you can do. You can stay with one configuration of one intelligence and change the formations to another intelligence just by one configuration. 12 different faces in one cycle. Okay? So your compilation lines, your catapults, correlates, interference, your placement, screen location settings is truly understanding what you're doing through intelligence of communication and identification. All right? Very powerful stuff. How it goes from this to this. But this stands out from everything else. Everything else is on standby. Okay? That's the importance you guys have to understand. Right? Getting that collaboration with its intelligence first. Right? Because the team already has a partnership with themselves. Now you got to understand how to get partnerships with everything around you, of its awareness of its conscious location setting to its navigation system, in track location setting to its space and time. Right? That's all it is. All right. So we're getting a little bit more understanding there, which is good. But building that is all lines of process. And getting into that process helps you all levels and forms how to really get into the DNA of status. Setting lines of 7 cities. Okay, 7 cities, right? 7-line screen, adaptation lines of correlations. So what you want to do, cities, break it down, 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 right? What does the C mean? What does, solar flare. I mean, another solar flare. Set position TIES. What does that all mean? Because it all connects to a solar sail. That's it, nothing else, boom, right? So once you identify what CI in position of TIES means, then you're on your way, right? Get in that positional formation of the ground lines, communicate with the system, it travels, there it is, coming out. Boom, there we go, right? Get in lines in and out in audio so it can communicate through settings. Cloak and dagger, communications coming to screen lines, now it comes out through its equation. Oh, look at that, powerful stuff. Oof. Everything's on standby, but this is the only thing I'm communicating with, right? On a 7 sitting line rotation 1 surface. 7 correlation on track interference is a foundation graph line. 7 equals lines of correlation to high interference, sets lines of 5, int equals lines of 12, set locations, sets communication lines of 24, 48, set lines of 72, and 144 clocking system of travel. Break it down again. Sets position and travel lines, split lines anomaly, sets communication line screens, deprecation system and travel, point lines of graph, calculation screen lines, adaptation lines of surface, application. Now, get in direct line signals, 144 setting, 72 in position of 48, line conditions of 24, and line settings of 12 in set location. Process calculate the lines of pi in generation. Calculate the ground center high interference, will go through 0 lines, equals lines of 1, equals lines of 2. Sets correlation setting 2 1's lines, 1 lines of graph, 1 lines of graph. Sets communication high center interference in position of 4 over 2. Equals lines of 4 line settings, equals lines of 3, equals lines of 4, equals lines of 6, equals lines of 8, equals lines of 9, equals lines of 10, and 11 locations over pi. Communicates line screen high adaptation lines of surface and traction. Direct calculus line screens, sets lines of 0 gravity, platforms of setting, platforms of surface, platforms of division, platforms of space, platforms correlations of binary. Direct lines modification line, ground lines, operation lines, zero location setting to energetic bubble, line rotation surface interactions. Point lines of graph, bring communication lines, screen lines, adaptation lines at high center location of pi 1, pi 2, pi 3, pi 4, pi 5, pi 6, and set location of setting. Process communication lines, screens high adaptation. Let's go into green lines. So I'm only working with the blue and the green. Okay? That's communication I want to communicate with. I don't want to communicate with the blue and the red and the white, right? You have to stand the grounds now. Once you have an operation line saying that you can communicate with anything, information, location, the 25 nations, or anything in line condition setting. Every intelligence has its own cities. Every intelligence has its own foundation. Every intelligence has its own clocking, and every intelligence has its own configuration phase. Okay? So you have to really understand what you're doing in chart applications. I got 1, 2, 3, position of 4, 5, and 6 line calculations coming out through this equation. This basically is what interactions. Once you bring this up, what do you do? What do you do? Set a correlation on track interference, you have to cancel it out. All right? You got to cancel it out. You don't cancel it out, it overrides your system and takes over your attractions, and it overrides the communication of its intelligence information. Right? That's a no-no. You finish the conversation, you work with this now. Okay? All right. So I'm getting you guys to better understand how to break these things down and how to formulate it and simulate it and understand how to communicate it one particular setting at a time. Place, thing, or object, it doesn't matter. What matters, are you understanding its city? Are you understanding its foundation? And are you understanding its clocking of its configuration? Now, where it's coming from. Everything has its own connection and its own setting, guys, which is all calculately modified to its own planet. That's right, guys. Everything has its own planet. Because it recognizes its settings and its applications. You're never going to see an empty vessel in a pen. Okay? The actual intelligence is inside the pen. Okay? Monitoring its system, navigating its system. Okay? It's getting its lines of communication of schematics. So what it is in position, picking anything up in tractions, let's just go location settings of travels, point lines of graph calculation, screen lines, and direct signals. Picking this up. One line indicates the other, right? This is right, this is left. Nope, this is left, this is right. Now it's together. So it synchronizes in position locations, right? This is intelligence. This here, that's intelligence of its own. Just that. That's intelligence of its own. Everything that's put together in position of its own design is its own intelligence. This is its own intelligence. This is its own intelligence. This is its own intelligence. Just because it's together doesn't mean it's one setting. You have to send the singular and the binary how it comes together, that collaboration, okay, through intelligence. So when you put in your ears, it comes in a collaboration, a partnership. That's why I always have headphones, because if I take them out, you hear a computer of me, nothing else. And it's going to override the avatars. They won't understand the sequence. They won't understand the communications. They won't understand the harmonics. It's too strong, too powerful, especially when you open up the space and time through your ears and sonar and echo, right? So that's a collaboration, right? So right line, left line, right? Take them out at the same time. You pull out one cycle, like position location, this overrides the settings. So in track location, line condition system and travel, point lines and graph calculations. You don't do this because it affects the other line communication that's in. That's a missing link in travel. Missing link in travel because it's still in here, but this is out through the equation, right? So in that position lines of correlations and tractions, you do this in equation to take them at the same time. Okay, so I'm just showing you exactly what intelligence wants and how you should be doing these through its own instructions, through its own space at its own time, through its own modification, its own space module. You know exactly what's going on. You put it in, you take it out. You don't do this in setting. You take them out at the same time. Okay, and that's instructions from the headphones. Hooah. All right. So basic understanding is all levels at set locations, right? Because it offlines your communication, your sonars, or your ears. Because you don't want to leave anything too long. It's like filling up a glass of water and it just keeps flowing, but it keeps leaking. So every time you're filling it up, you don't realize there's a leak at the bottom. There's a hole at the bottom, but you keep filling up the glass, but you don't know why, right? So you just keep filling up, but you never fill it up because there's a leak at the bottom. So you're being aware of what's going on, right? So it's consciously be aware of everything in detail. I just showed you through intelligence from headphones, what they expect you to do. Imagine that, all from intelligence. Don't take one out, take both at the same time. That's the partnership, right? You don't want to leave the buddy behind, okay? All right, track division lines, let's go through box frames. Go through 4 lines of measure, 4 calculations of 3 settings, right? 4 lines of setting. Equals on correlation lines of 7 tractions, right? That's where it gets interesting. Get in the flux, correlates the box and travel line rotation. Position lines of 3, we change the 3 communication as settings. Process calculates lines of 3 line settings. Process lines of 3, process lines of 3, right? So that's position lines of correlation lines. Sets position calculation lines set locations into 1, 2, 3, 4 set locations. Ground centers, film strips of 1, 2, and platform. Sets lines of 4 track location lines of setting. Pyramid, direction, operation, cycles, correlation, tractions. Direct modification lines in diamond core and track location. So understand how to use that is understand the platforms of setting of 3, center lines of 3, and center core line track location and system and all levels as location settings into magnetic highway fields in line communication. Hoo-ah. Done by equation. Now, what do you want to communicate with? Right? Your intent. And so you get position, location, manifestation. You're getting particulars. So let's break communication line settings. Track calculation lines. Let's break it down. Right? Start with that. Oh, this is going to come out now, right? So you communicate that. The others are on standby. Communicates in and out in audio and track case line settings and operation surface and traction. Whoa, look at that coming out. All right, pick lines, cloak and dagger. You got to bring that. Position lines of travel and 3 set locations. All right, so let's go through orange. All right, so we're building the foundation grounds. Okay, then we come into gold. Okay, here we go. Gold's coming in track location. Now it's position coming out. Right now it's balanced. Now it's communicating. Everything's on standby, but I'm not connecting all things all at once. I know there's different intelligence here, but I only connect one particular intelligence at one particular time, breaking down the seconds, minutes, and hours, breaking everything through frame, breaking everything particle, breaking everything foundation, breaking everything the city, breaking everything down to the configuration of face recognition, timelines, the space line communication, modulation, interference location, to its stealth location, setting to its operating location system, to its binary. Boom. That's coming out. Everything's on standby. Hooah! Okay, powerful, isn't it? That's what I want on the test. Okay? That's how you identify you from intelligence. Right? And you do it through intent, influence, and manipulation. Boom. All right. Getting position lines as centers. Once you understand the data formations that allow you communication center, you come into center lines of communication lines of bots. Balance communication lines, operation lines of telegraph and telecommunication, telegraph communication interference, and teleportation. Bots. That sense line, high correlation lines of bots. Systematical teleportation operation lines of balance. Oh my gosh, look at that. Solar sail. Platforms 1, 2, and 3 settings. See the platform? See how different it is? From this, you have to understand how to use platforms and how to go through platforms and how to travel through platforms. Understand platforms of communication and setting of travel. Point lines of graphs, platforms, all calculate and modify. Get in that position location so the avatar knows exactly how to walk, how to fly, and how to levitate and travel. 3 set locations, right? So I'm just showing you how powerful it is in position those locations, setting, and travels. Okay, copy that, Dessa. All right, so line positions back to center. So the vessel is just learning how to vortex through set location, right? All through platform. Okay. It says position 1, 2, 3, and 4 tractions. See, this is all in the holographic city of set design that you guys have to understand. You have to learn how to walk in space, fly in space, and basically to levitate in space, guys. There's so much to understand in the vessel communication. But you got to understand this, because this is what goes on remote. This is what goes on. Within the 3 to 4 or 5 hours, you're in position of. Okay? Understanding to go through the platforms, understanding your highways, and what you're doing through your travels. Okay? And calculation of your clocking system, right? Setting position of travel lines, point lines of graphs. There's always a clocking system above your system. Always a clocking system above your system. Okay? Always a clock above your system. Because it follows you wherever you go. And the clocking system opens up its portals, its rounds, into communication. Hooah! Woo! Okay? Sets lines of attractions. Let's go into a black hole. Okay? You have to understand how a black hole is set up and travel line position to its calculation. Right? Then you go into gold because it symbolizes correlation lines of light and tracking to its provision. Comes out. Right? It comes out now. See? One particular thing at a time. Because you're slowing down your space. Okay? Through time, guys. Through clocking. You're taking one particular thing at a time. You break it down. So when you get into your thoughts, you know exactly what you're doing. You know exactly how fast you're going. You know exactly the set position location is vast volume. Remember, your voice speaks volumes, vast, velocity, acceleration, Mach, everything through interstellar mode, and anything through hyper mode, hyperdrive, or anything in set position location through setting, all through calculate and modify, all through travel. Okay, this is just platform, right? How you set your things in platforms and all communications and settings is all calculate and modify. Platforms, it's always platforms. So the basic grounds in your cities is knowing how to walk in the mind space. And then you get position travel lines and what and track locations. Let's go in a box frame. Okay, I'm going to go through. This is a black hole, but it's a square box location. This is a black hole. Every black hole is not a circle, guys. Get that in the equation. That's a program. So I want you to understand that in calculations. This is a black hole. Okay? See, it's going way beyond. You guys are not recognizing this. So I got 2 panels, correlations and track centers. We're going to set a bowl line screen, adaptation lines of surface. Track division lines of cycles. Okay, we're going to overcross line conditions, setting pixelation graphs into modulation screens, adaptation lines of surface. puts lines of communication of its position of its program into calculation setting and travel. That's a black hole. See? So when you travel through it, right? You travel through it, right? You cross line screen, right? It stays in position. And then you got platforms here, platforms here, platforms here, platforms here. Right? But it's inside. Nothing is left outside. Outside is space. Everything inside line consists platform. Outside is the avatar. Now it's going to get complicated. The inside is the earth of the higher self. Now, in position location, that's 3 lines of communication, lines of teleportations of vessels that you have to start recognizing. Okay? Platform 1, inside correlations, introspection, calculation of the platforms of its earth to its higher self. Guys, right? 3 frequency patterns, and then you come into the avatar, that is the space. Okay? Your higher self does not go into space. Your avatar does. Hoo-ah! Okay? So, your avatar doesn't go in the mind. That's your sim. Hoo-ah! Mind and navigation. 3 different levels of travel. All through the mind of collaboration, of partnerships, right? So, now you understand. Higher self stays on the earth. Stays in the platforms of communication, right? Avatar equals lines of GOD. Stays all levels and ground-centered lines of space and correlation lines of center. The sim only stays in the mind of navigations of mapping sequence and position of graph. That's the difference between the higher self, the avatar, and the sim. Higher self does not travel in space. It only stays on its earth ground settings and perception location of platforms. Okay? It doesn't go any further. It only stays in tracking of ancestry, history, and celestial to the angelic, formation grounds of all operation service, and set location to its setting. Nothing else. Track calculation lines, the avatar, remember, it's all calculate modify. You put it all together, you have your own result. But I'm trying to get you guys to identify different levels and set position location modifications so you understand the different vessels of communication. All right, now I'll calculate modify, right? So now you understand. The higher self does not travel into space. It only stays on the earth. The spectrum correlation, it stays in the ether and the core and its umbrella and its firmament. But it doesn't go above the firmament. It stays on the earth. It protects the earth, nothing else. You understand that? Good. All right. 3 chord track lines, highest interference, 12 foundation graphs in position, location, higher self, and your avatar and your sim that has fabrics of space. Fabric of space. Yes. Data, files, correlations. You got everything correlation, track, interference. But to direct lines of signals, the sim is the modification of the simulation of its calculation. In position of platforms, guys. Okay? Bet you didn't know that, team. Now you do. All right, so things are going to get a lot more easier once you understand platforms of the higher self. Once you understand the avatar of space through GOD. Okay, so this is what is in traffications. Platforms. Let's go into 4 settings. There's a platform, right? All right. Now, higher self. Okay, equals lines of its earth. Stays in its ether. Stays in its core. Stays in its firmament. Stays in its umbrella. Doesn't do anything else. It stays on its earth. So it stays on platforms. That's all it does and doesn't do anything else. Platform here. But it doesn't go past an A-track location. What's the A? Avatar. Whoa, look at that. Now you understand. You can't go above the ether line core setting because it's the avatar equals lines of GOD and position location. So it only stays at a certain level of communications platform. Okay? It doesn't go any higher. All right. Now you understand because it's too confusing for the higher self to do everything else. Yo. And it has its own human resonance and graph communication. Right? Same with the avatar, but it has a space graph. And the sim has a modulation graph, which is a mapping sequence graph. There's the difference between 3-line communication of vessels calculation setting, all through operation system, right? All right, so I'm just showing you how powerful it is, how you have to really identify the different levels of travel and mechanisms and application of your operation cycles through your vessels and communications, through your higher self, through your avatar, and your sim, right? Bet you didn't know that. Now you do. All right. Spectrum line in a communication line screen has a line signal that operates the signal lines, adaptation lines, of surface. It puts everything in position of plateau. Now the plateau puts everything in information lines and grounds. Again, communication lines of box frames, mainframe, correlation lines of highest interference, and a row graph communication that split lines of 3 lines of anomaly. Flux capacitor. Flux capacitor, guys. Okay, center core settings, right? Anything in the center is a transition. Okay, anything below in position, right? Higher self, avatar, sim. All right, that's how this works. Okay, just so you know, through box and mainframe, how you are communicating to a setting, right? So it controls everything in crop circles, right? Higher selves work with the crop circles, not the avatars. The avatar is the controlling the mechanism line connecting setting to all levels of navigation to its settings through its XT thousands. That's what your avatar controls. That's what it modifies on all levels of position lines of travel. It doesn't do anything else. It's messengers and track locations. All right? Nothing else. So in position, location, and calculation lines, now you know, understand communication, what a higher self does, its own human resident of its Earth location setting to its crop circle. That's right, guys. It's not the avatar crop circles. It's only a higher self that controls everything in the grounds in position of its Earth and traction. Hoo-ah. Now, center core system is the avatar. That's all process, position, location, and setting up all line communication to its projection. All lines of communication lines is nothing but XD thousands in separation of center. Hoo-ah. And the sim is the mapping sequence of systematic line screen of its intelligence and modification. It's the mind of navigation. Hoo-ah. All right? There's the sim. There's the avatar. And there's the higher self. Okay? Now you understand the importance. Why you have to understand all 3 vessels and track location in your system in a 4-line calculation setting, a 3-line position of travel, in a 7 digital frame communication of 7 cities, 12 foundations, and 24, 48, 72, and 144 clocking. How important it is to understand how to use your higher self, how to use your avatar, and how to use your sim through mind of navigation of simulation. Okay? Boom. Done by equation. That's it. We're done. That was fun, right? So you got a lot more deeper core, what the higher self is and what is it can control of. Everything has a weather panel, higher self, avatar, and sim. But when they come together, boom, what do you got there in position, location, and setting? You through modification, all at once. 3 central calculated lines, the grounds, the powers, and the apertures. Putting that all together, 4-line communications, 7-line communication settings of travels. All through direct lines of your cities, your foundations, and your clocking settings, all through navigation. All together as one. See you in 5 minutes.